Hi, and welcome to Mindfulness Part 3. My name is Deirdre Brady. And in this session, we're going to talk a little more about mindfulness and the mind and our thinking. Why is that important? Well, Henry David Thoreau says, it's not what you look at that matters, it's what you see. So our perspective on the world is really important. And our mind creates our environment, creates our reality, creates our mood pretty much all the time. So what we choose to think about, we create. We often choose to think about our worries, our stresses, or the things that we aren't happy about in our lives. And this can create a lot more discontent. When we practice mindfulness and become more aware of our thinking, then we can do something about that thinking. We can choose to engage with thoughts that are more productive and more helpful. And we can choose not to engage with thoughts that are fearful, thoughts that are negative, thoughts that are maybe critical of ourselves and critical of others. And they really are our habits of thinking. So there's been a huge amount of research done around our thinking, around our brains, around how our neurons work, and neurons that fire together, wire together. So we create these neural pathways in our brain. And they're habits, they're just habits of thinking. So people often say, oh, I'm just naturally a worrier, I was always a worrier, or I'm naturally pessimistic, or and that's not actually true. We might have been like that for quite some time, but it's only because we have that's been our habit, and maybe it's been a learned habit, but it's something that's become a habit in our lives. And we can change those behaviors. And they start with awareness of our thinking. That's the key. The more that we can become aware of our thoughts, the more that we realize that we have the power to control those thoughts to a degree, certainly change those thoughts or choose to think something else. So with the awareness of thought, the first thing that we realize is that I don't have to believe my thoughts. They're not always true. I mean, obviously, if I'm using my mind to add up 2 and 2 is 4, then I know that that's the truth. But if my mind is saying that I'm not good enough, or that I should have done better, or other people are talking about me, or whatever it might be, I don't have to choose to believe thoughts like that. And that actually I can choose to think something else. And that's what creates a new habit of thinking, or a new neural pathway in the brain, where you consciously choose not to engage with a negative thought, and you consciously choose to think something that's more productive, something that's more helpful, something that's more self-loving, something that's more self-affirming, something that's generally better for you and will create a better result. And that's a really beautiful thing about mindfulness, and about finding ways to use your mind in a more constructive way, getting your mind working for you, instead of feeling that you are a slave of your mind, or that your mind is in control, or your mind is the boss. And a lot of people nowadays do believe that their minds are controlling them. They do believe that they are victims of their minds, to the point that often people can't sleep at night. Their fears can be very overwhelming, or can overcome them, or their negativity. They're choosing to believe things about themselves and about their lives that aren't helpful at all. So with mindfulness, you can really change your entire life. You can really change your reality by changing the way that you choose to think about it. And that's a very powerful thing. So, for example, again, it comes with being more present in your body, so that you can realize that you're not your thoughts. Your thoughts are something that are going on, that we're more than just our minds. We're our physical bodies, our emotional bodies, as well as our mental bodies, and that we have a spiritual dimension as well. And the more present we can be in our physical bodies, the more that we can become aware of our thoughts, without letting the thoughts take us away on a story. So we recognize that we're thinking something without, oh, I'm hungry, what will I have to eat? And oh, I had a lovely Italian yesterday, and oh, I wonder how Mary is because I was with her, and so on, so on. So we let the thought take us on a story. That's okay if that's where you want to go, but often we're just allowing ourselves to become more and more distracted. So it's important to notice the thoughts, notice where our thoughts are taking us, notice the train of thought, and noticing unhelpful thoughts, noticing negative thoughts, noticing fearful thoughts. And this is also where stress comes in, because when we're stressed and cortisol and adrenaline are pumping around our bodies, we're much more inclined to think more negatively, we're much more inclined to think more fearfully, we find it much more difficult to relax. So it's really important to bring our stress levels down every day. It's really important. We all have a certain amount of stress, but it's really important that we learn how to de-stress. And the absolute best way of de-stressing is through meditation. It's through actively and consciously talking yourself down, relaxing your body, relaxing all the muscles, all of the ways that we hold that tension in our bodies. And with a short meditative practice, 10 minutes is all it takes to reduce your stress levels, you find that your mind becomes clearer. Your mind is no longer on tilt. It's no longer racing and running ahead of you. And it's something that you can deal more easily with and practice working with. So reducing your stress levels is very important. Noticing the negative thoughts, noticing the unhelpful thoughts, and literally stopping them in their tracks, literally saying, well, I don't have to choose to believe that today. I don't have to choose to engage with that thought. I don't have to believe that I should have done better, that it wasn't good enough, or that I made a fool of myself, or whatever it might be. Whatever that internal dialogue that we're often so used to in our minds, that we can actually stop that thought and choose to think something more constructive and more helpful. Choose to think that, well, I've done my best and that's always good enough. I choose to think that, what other people think of me is none of my business. I have no control over that, and I don't need to think about it. And give yourself the permission and the freedom to just get on with your life. And this is where positive affirmations can be very helpful as well. Using positive affirmations, simply saying something like, I'm safe, I am loved, all is well in my world, I am good enough, I am enough, I'm abundant in every way, can really help to undo some of those negative patterns and help us to think more effectively. The practice of gratitude is another really important mindfulness practice that really is practicing positivity. There's so much negative in the news all of the time that often we forget how much we have and how much we have to be grateful for. So consciously practicing gratitude every day, every morning and every evening is a wonderful way of being reminded and reminding ourselves of all that we have. And it's interesting when you do practice the gratitude, what it is that comes to mind. It might be somebody smiling at you. It might be somebody holding a door open for you. It might be just a thoughtful text that you received. And you think, oh, it's the small things. And then you realize the small things really aren't the small things, that they're the things that really matter. Kindness and thoughtfulness and caring and love. So practicing gratitude really helps to keep things in perspective and keep our lives in perspective. One other thing I'd like to touch on in this particular session is really our relationship with ourselves. So for me, mindfulness has taught me to be my own best friend. It's taught me to have a better relationship with myself. And all of the aspects of mindfulness, you're encouraged to practice them with yourself first. So the practice of kindness, the practice of compassion, the practice of empathy, of forgiveness, of trust, of patience, of non-striving, all of these wonderful practices, generosity, gratitude, we're really encouraged to practice these with ourselves first. And through using these tools, these wonderful tools, we develop a better relationship with ourselves. We learn how to listen to our needs. We learn how to fulfill our needs. The most important relationship that we have in our lives is the relationship that we have with ourselves. Not our partners or our children or our parents or our work. It's the relationship that we have with ourselves. And our responsibility is to ourselves and to our own happiness and to fulfilling our own needs. So often we think, well, I'm doing so much for other people. Why aren't they doing more for me? Or I'm doing this for him. Why isn't he doing something for me? And we wait for somebody else to make us happy when nobody knows our needs better than ourselves. And it's really important that we learn how to fulfill those needs for ourselves. And we'll talk about that in a little more detail next time. Thanks for watching.